The rain had been steady all night, soft and relentless, soaking the streets until they shimmered with the reflections of passing headlights. Daniel Ross pulled his jacket tighter around his shoulders, though the thin fabric did little to fight off the chill. Beside him trotted Max, his faithful mutt with patchy fur and an unshakable loyalty. Max never complained, not about hunger, not about cold, not about the long nights spent in doorways. He simply followed Daniel, always a step ahead, always watching. It was close to midnight when Max stopped suddenly, ears pricked. Ahead, on the curb of a deserted side street, sat a woman. Her clothes were too fine for the setting, silk blouse, tailored coat, but her hair hung loose and wet, and her eyes stared blankly at the pavement. She looked fragile, as though one wrong word might shatter her. Daniel slowed, uneasy. He had learned the hard way to keep distance from strangers. Trouble had a way of finding him if he lingered too long. Yet Max, ignoring Daniel's gentle tug on the leash, padded straight to the woman and laid his head on her knee. The woman blinked, startled, then reached down with trembling fingers to touch Max's head. Daniel sighed, crouching a few feet away. "You okay, ma'am?" he asked quietly. She looked up, and Daniel was struck by the sharp blue of her eyes. I don't know," she whispered. Her voice carried a strange mix of refinement and desperation. "You hurt? Need an ambulance?" She shook her head quickly. "No, no hospitals, please." Daniel studied her. She wasn't drunk, and her jewelry gleamed faintly in the streetlight. People like her didn't sit on sidewalks unless something had gone terribly wrong. "Name?" he tried. Her lips parted, but after a pause she shook her head again. "I don't know my name." Tears welled. "It's gone." Daniel exhaled slowly. He had little to offer. $3, an old blanket, and a dog. He couldn't afford to take in lost souls, and yet Max wagged his tail, leaning closer to her. Daniel's heart softened. "All right," he murmured. "For now, you're safe. I'm Daniel. This here's Max." The woman's shoulders eased as if those words alone had steadied her. They spent the rest of the night sitting together under a flickering streetlight. Daniel gave her his jacket, ignoring the cold that seeped into his bones. By morning he led her to a diner where the owner sometimes showed pity. She ate slowly, carefully, as though each bite was a fragile gift. Over the next few days, Daniel guided her through libraries, parks, and quiet corners of the city. She remembered small things: gardens with lilies, the sound of piano keys, the smell of fresh paint, but nothing that gave her name. One afternoon she opened her purse, finding only a small notebook with the word Grace written on the first page. She shook her head, confused. "I don't think it's mine." "Then we'll call you Grace until we know different," Daniel said gently. The name stuck, but shadows followed them. Daniel began noticing a black SUV idling on side streets, tinted windows hiding whoever watched them. Each time, Max's growl warned him it wasn't imagination. The truth came by accident. In the library, Daniel flipped through a magazine and froze. There, smiling on a glossy page, was Grace, or rather, Catherine M. Hale, wealthy philanthropist and CEO. The article listed her net worth in the hundreds of millions. He showed her the picture. She stared at it with trembling hands. "Catherine," she whispered. The name fit, but fear clouded her expression. "I don't know if I want to remember." Daniel closed the magazine. "Doesn't matter what the world calls you. Right now, you're safe. That's what counts." But safety was an illusion. One night the SUV returned, and this time a man stepped out, scanning the park where they slept. Daniel moved swiftly, calling from an old payphone the number of Catherine's charitable foundation listed in the article. He left only a message: "She's alive. She's safe. Come alone." The next day, a middle-aged woman arrived in a modest car. Her name was Harriet, Catherine's assistant. When she saw Catherine, tears blurred her eyes. "We've been searching everywhere," she whispered. Catherine clung to her, relief mixing with confusion. Before leaving, Harriet turned to Daniel. "You saved her life. Don't think she'll ever forget." Daniel nodded, already preparing himself to be forgotten once more. But the following week, Harriet returned. "She keeps asking for you," she said. "She feels safe when you're near." And so Daniel and Max began visiting Catherine at a quiet home outside the city. Slowly, her memory pieced itself together. She recalled family names, board meetings, childhood summers in a house with white columns. Yet even as her old life returned, she leaned on Daniel for calm, for steadiness. He read to her from worn library books while Max sprawled at her feet. She laughed again, a sound Daniel hadn't known he needed until it came. Danger still lurked. Opportunists circled her estate. One stormy night the SUV returned. Daniel waited on the porch, soaked to the bone, until a shadow approached. Max barked ferociously, and the intruder fled. By dawn, Catherine found Daniel still keeping watch, shivering but resolute. "You stayed," she said softly. "Didn't seem right to leave," he replied. "You protect me like no one else has." Her voice trembled. "Why?" Daniel looked away. "Because someone should." Weeks passed. Reporters eventually learned of Catherine's return, and cameras swarmed. When she stepped before them, she didn't hide the truth. She told of being lost, of the man and dog who kept her safe when she had nothing. "All my wealth," she said, "means nothing without compassion. This man taught me that." Daniel shifted uncomfortably at her side, wishing to disappear, but Catherine caught his hand and held it firmly. "You belong here," she whispered. In that moment, Daniel realized he was no longer invisible. He had given what little he had, kindness, loyalty, courage, and it had been enough to change both of their lives forever. Max wagged his tail, as if he had known it all along.